Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the latest installment of ROSS Racing. As always, brought to you by the good folks at the Rockingham Dragway and RockinghamDragway.com. That is Russell Parker as usual. I am Matt Harrelson, and while rain threatened Sunday's forecast in the Poconos, it did not stop NASCAR from completing the full 180 laps of the tricky triangle at Pocono Raceway. Now, the 400 miles of Monster Energy Cup Series racing saw a tight race between many different drivers, but in the end, it was Kyle Busch who took the checkered flag for the fourth time this season. So to start off, Russell, what was it that got the Candyman in victory lane?
Well, he just had a spectacular day. He was running up front for the most part of it. He just out of nowhere was able to make a lot of these wild passes in his corners, which a lot of people could not do all day. There was an issue of people not being able to. There was not really a lot of shifting like you would normally see at Pocono in the car, so it was a completely different race. And Kyle Busch just seemed to have the right formula to nail it down.
Now, when you say shifting, what does that mean?
Gear shifting, first, second gear, all that type of stuff. They do that in NASCAR. There's no automatics at all, and so most people these they probably couldn't drive in.
Yes,
but
me included.
But he just had it down pat. It was kind of ran like a plate race, if you will, because the cars were bunched up together. But there wasn't really a lot of passing, except for. When you saw passing, it was very rare, and for the lead it was. But you could see a lot of it in the middle, and that's kind of what the package has been like all season. Is you're seeing a lot of passing in the middle, but Kyle Busch was able to get it done up front, and just kept getting the lead. And while he didn't sweep the stages, it was Kyle Larson who did so. Kyle Busch, he took the win when it mattered, so he got his next win.
Yes, he did.
Of many.
And exactly. And with that being said, this is Busch's 55th Cup Series victory, which now has him tied with NASCAR Hall of Famer Rusty Wallace. Now, Busch's next target is 21 wins away, and that driver would be the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt, who sits at 76 total. Now, Russell, two questions here. One, can Busch get there? And two, what would it mean if he did?
Well, I think for the first question, he can definitely get there. It's only 21 races for him to win, and with the season not even halfway over with, he could still win maybe 4 more of his season. I think he's kind of averaging about 6 to 8 wins a season. So if you think about that in 4 years, he'll probably get there. And to answer your second question, it would be a huge deal. I think a lot of fans would not be happy with him reaching that goal. But he is great at what he does. He's a great driver. He knows how to get there and win when it matters. Of course, we've seen he tied up for all-time career wins between the top 3 series for 200. Now he's broke it. So I think Kyle Busch is just going to continue to hit full throttle every single weekend, no matter what. He's out there to win. He's out there to do his job, and he's getting it done. And you're going to continue to see that from him.
Is he already in the Hall of Fame?
No doubt. I mean, he's the driver can get in, I think, after 5 years of retirement, I believe. So, or a full year retirement. I can't remember the stipulations on it, but yeah, certainly he'll be a first ballot when he gets on there.
All right. Well, for some drivers, it was all about driving fast, but for Kevin Harvick and crew chief Rodney Childers, it was about pulling a few tricks at the tricky triangle with pit strategies in order to get the 4 team its first win in 2019. Unfortunately, for the 2014 champion, the team was hit with a pit road penalty and then had to drive the final laps of the race without power steering, a difficult thing to do in the cars of today. Now, Russell, this is certainly an odd thing to see Harvick's winless by the month of June. What is going on with him?
I can't even point out what's going on. But he does good. He's running fast. He's able to run up front for the majority of the race, but as you get to that halfway point, he starts to fade away. And you see this week in, week out. I predict him win multiple races because he should be winning races. And he made some good promising finishes and starts. And I don't know, he just drifts on back. He's not able to be the closer, which is another nickname of his. As the closer, he just can't close. So I'm sure he's not happy Harvick right now, and I don't know what's going to go on from him because, like I said, we're expected to see him win 6-8 wins a season, 6-8 races a season, kind of like Kyle Busch, and always in that championship hunt. He's nowhere near that hunt right now because of the way he's performing. So I just don't know what's gotten into him.
Well, I was going to piggyback off of that and ask you, do you think this, the blame, if you will, is more on the car, the driver, the crew? What do you think?
It could very well just be the rules package. You know, I mean, a lot of the ROSS Racing drivers have been kind of bouncing back and forth. Clinton Boyer's been doing very well. Kevin Harvick is not doing well. You've got Erik Jones, who's running around he was last year. He got a top 10 this week, so that's good for him. But you know, it has varied. Daniel Suarez in the 41 car is doing pretty well too, especially since his transition from Joe Gibbs Racing to ROSS Racing. So I think, I don't know, maybe it's just the 14. Maybe Childress just can't quite pin it what's going on in the rules package. Maybe it's not Harvick's style. We don't really see him win a lot of plate races, so it could very well be a factor in that because it drives similar to a plate race. That a lot of these races are not in his favor. All
right, well, we'll definitely have to keep an eye out for Harvick the rest of the season. But let's talk about the race overall at Pocono for just a minute, because when people talk about the 2021 schedule shakeup that's coming, Pocono doesn't seem to be on the list of returning tracks, or at least where they lose one of their two races. So, Russell, after this race with the 2019 rules package hitting this surface for the first time, did you see where two races are justified, or is this the end of NASCAR up in Pocono?
I love the track. I think it's a very unique venue to go and race at. It's a triangle. It's one different. Of a kind. Yeah. Each turn is kind of mimicked after a really world famous track. Wyndham's Indianapolis, I believe Wyndham's Monaco. I can't remember what the other one is, but you know, it's a unique track. It's been on the circuit for a long time. When I was a kid, I used to call it Pinocchio because I didn't know how to speak then. So you know, but as much as I love the track, I don't know if it's justified to have two races. I don't think it should have two races. I think one is fine. I think NASCAR may have realized this too, because that's why they put the double header for Pocono next season. So that's kind of just one race weekend for them. I'm not sure what they're going to do if they add the road course part of the track into it for one of those two races, or maybe both, or they don't use it at all. I think they should try using that and see if that will help revitalize Pocono to get it back. What I like about Pocono too is that it's an independently owned track. So there's very few of those on NASCAR's Cup Series circuit. So to lose one of those is kind of giving more power to the big two, which is ISC and SMI, and nothing against those companies, but you kind of want to see some independent ownership and kind of make competitiveness between the tracks themselves, because they're trying to sell their tickets, and I think it kind of drives the other two companies, the big ones, to want to sell harder too on theirs.
And of course, you'd be okay if one of those ended up in Rockingham too, right?
Yeah, I'd be completely fine with that. It's going from one independent to another, so
exactly.
That's okay.
Well, one more question. Now, we had a severe threat of rain up at Pocono Raceway, yet it never rained during the race. Do you think that this was that vortex theory that's caused this?
So the vortex theory, are you familiar with the vortex theory?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, I really do. I know there's science that proves against it, that it's not real, but I'm going to stick with Darrell Waltrip. I think that maybe it did affect the rain a little bit out there at the Tricky Triangle, because it was so heavily overcast. A lot of rain forecast was coming. None of it happened. There were a few drops from the camera lenses from the broadcast, but no, there wasn't really nothing else going on, and the race got all the way through, and nobody was worried about having a rain shorten the race or anything like that. Just went on through, had a great race for the end. So I have to stick with Darrell Waltrip on this one and say it's true.
Yeah, personally, I don't know about a vortex theory. With me, a lot of times, people that are in the weather game typically just kind of guess at it anyway. Yeah. So to me, it was one of those things. But anyway, let's move on and talk about drivers who are in the grooves. Who you got this week, Russell?
So for the Cup Series, I've got Erik Jones, who started fourth in the race and finished third. Had a solid race all day. He just kept consistently throughout the race and was always up there, not really challenging for the lead. I talked about earlier how hard it was to pass for the lead, so it was really difficult. But for him to come out in a third place finish is really solid for him. And for the Xfinity here, they got Noah Gragson, who started 15th, finished 8th. There was a lot of tight racing among that top 10 who really didn't fall out of the top 10 when they started the race. So he was about the only one outside of the top 10 that started and finished in the top 10. So got solid pickup for him.
All right. Well, let's talk about Mr. Erik Jones for just a moment. So Joe Gibbs Racing has been one of the top two teams this season. 3 of their 4 drivers have at least 2 wins, the winless driver being Jones. Now, currently, Jones is in a contract negotiation with Gibbs. First off, how likely do you see Jones staying in the 20 car in the future? Because where I'm sitting, if I'm Joe Gibbs, I'm looking at the guy who's been killing it in the Xfinity Series, Christopher Bell, and I'm thinking he could do a lot better if I moved him up and replaced Jones.
Yeah, that's kind of that's a good point because Christopher Bell, like you said, has been killing it. He's just dominance. I'm sure he'll do the same thing in Michigan this weekend as well. I really don't know what the future is for Erik Jones because he is a solid driver. Unfortunately, there's just somebody who's really, really good right now, who's hot, and it's going to be the money maker, I would say, to move into that ride. However, maybe not so fast. Maybe not this coming up year. I think Erik Jones may get maybe another year or two to prove himself. I think Christopher Bell could probably move over into Levine Family Racing. They have a 2-car setup, I believe, coming up. They'll be expanding to 2 cars, and Levine Family Racing has they have a connection with Joe Gibbs. They're kind of like a satellite team of Joe Gibbs. So he could join up with that team down there, and probably Christopher Bell probably racing that team. Maybe they'll move Erik Jones to that and put Christopher Bell in the top car, but I don't know. I feel like maybe they'll put Bell into that new car just to put pressure on Jones.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying. However, would it be fair to say that even though Bell is at a lower level of racing, if you will, he's actually more popular already than Jones is? Is that fair to say?
I think so, because Jones, I don't think he really had that. He was good on the Xfinity level when he was there, driving the same car too as Bell is, but he did not have the success that Bell is having. Bell is racing these guys like Kyle Busch does when he's down there. So to say that kind of puts him on a cup level already, and he was ready to do it last year. Now I think he got a little pump the brakes on that because they wanted to make sure he was well oiled before they move him up another round. So I don't know. Maybe this year will be the year that Jones gets pushed really hard out of the ride and bring up Christopher Bell.
Yeah, sometimes competition brings out the best in people. Although if Bell wins at that level, pretty sure he's not old enough to celebrate, is he?
He might actually be now.
Right there at the cusp, though. But this weekend is an interesting one for NASCAR. It's one of the rare but exciting weekends where the Cup Series is in a different location from one of the other series. The Gander Outdoor Truck Series is going to be in Fort Worth, Texas tonight at 9 p.m. Then on Saturday at 1:30 p.m., the Xfinity Series hits the 2-mile track of Michigan International Speedway. Then the main event on Sunday will be the Cup Series taking a stab at the Brooklyn, Michigan track at 2 p.m. on FS1 and MRN for the 400-mile race. Russell, what do you expect to see out of this?
Well, I think that, a 2-mile track, a D-shape, I think it's going to run similar to what we saw at Auto Club Speedway earlier in the season. It's you're going to see cars just go wide out, 6 wide through the backstretch. They're going to fan out, if you will. I think you're going to see a lot of crazy restarts, especially. But I see a Ford dominance out of this track just because it's in Michigan. Detroit's the home track, or the home place for Ford. So Ford's always done well here. But I would say even watch out for the Chevrolets on this one because Hendrick, Chase Elliott, he got a win here before. I think you're going to continue to see that trend of Hendrick drivers getting better coming along. Now, Alex Bowman, he finished outside the top 10 for the first time in 4 weeks at Pocono. So maybe he's going to try and get back in the swing of things here at Michigan, maybe even run for a win. William Byron had a solid run as well. So I think you're going to see Hendrick and maybe Penske and Stuart Haas kind of duking it out, and maybe Kyle Busch in the mix as well.
All right, well, we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, let's hit the rock block. And, of course, we're talking about everything going on at the Rockingham Dragway, and there is always plenty happening out there. This weekend, no exception. So, first off, we've got the MXA Street Drags Test and Tune. We're also going to have out there the Mustang Wrecking Crew Club. Gates are going to open at 4 p.m., and they're going to be running late night all the way until 11 tomorrow night. But something very important going on this weekend out there as well is the Rocking the Boosted Power Curve Streetcar Drag Racing Series, and they're doing Racing to Fight Cancer a quarter mile at a time. Now, it's $5 to enter per event, or if you want to do the entire series, that's $25, and that's going to continue in addition to Saturday, July 13th, August 10th, and September 21st. Now, track fees are a $25 TNT fee. Driver classes are power added and naturally aspirated. And I'll be honest, I don't know what that means, but it sounds good. In the meantime, all those proceeds are going to benefit Fight the Good Fight, a local North Carolina charity helping those diagnosed with brain cancer. So real quick, some of the rules for it. At the event, you submit your best ET for the quarter mile. The top 20 times in each class will receive points. The The top 3 drivers in each class with the most points at the end of the season will get trophies and a small cash prize depending on how much participation there is. You must enter, though, by 8 p.m. to be eligible. All cars are welcome to compete. So it sounds like it's going to be a good time out at the Dragway.
And all for a good cause, too.
Absolutely. Anything to help raise awareness and raise money for cancer is a good thing.
Yep.
So that is the Rock Block, of course, brought to you by the Rockingham Dragway. Now, before we end the show, let's get some predictions.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the truck series on this one. I got Johnny Sauter winning this race tonight. He came out second in the first practice. I think he's got a really solid truck overall for this race. Texas is a mile-and-a-half track, so I think it benefits him pretty well for this race as well.
Pretty familiar name, too.
Yes, certainly. Another familiar name that will win the Xfinity race in Michigan. I've already said it once. I'm going to say it again. Christopher Bell wins this weekend. He's been just on a solid dominance all season. And despite other drivers being in the mix, I think Chris Bell probably just has the number on this one. Just outstanding performance for him for this race coming up. For the Cup Series, I am going to say Brad Keselowski wins this one. It's kind of actually his home track, if you will. He is from Michigan, he's a Michigan native. So I think that this can definitely be a good, solid win for him and get back at Kyle Busch again. So the match up on wins.
The anti-hero, if you will. So book it. You heard it here first. That's who's winning on all 3 levels this weekend. All right, race fans, that's going to do it for this edition of ROSS Racing. As always, brought to you by Rockingham Dragway and RockinghamDragway.com. That is Russell Parker. I'm Matt Harrelson. Have a great week, and we'll see you right back here for another edition of ROSS Racing.